Hi, and welcome to 30-Second Success Connect, where we introduce you to entrepreneurs who love to connect and lead with their hearts. I'm Laura Templeton, founder and CEO of 30-Second Success, and with me today is one of my favorite people, Neen James. Neen James is the author of Folding Times and Attention Pays. She was named one of the top 30 leadership speakers by Global Guru because of her work with companies like Viacom, Comcast, and Abbot Pharmaceuticals, among others. Neen has boundless energy and is quick-witted and always offers powerful strategies for paying attention, so you can get more done and create more significant moments at work and at home. Neen is the kind of speaker that engages, educates, entertains, and delivers the real-world solutions that apply in your organization, your home, and your community. She also provides one-on-one consulting in a variety of leadership topics and challenging executives to reconsider the level of attention given to specific goals and priorities. Welcome, Neen. Thank you so much for joining me on one of the brand new episodes of 30-Second Success Connect.
Well, it's an absolute treat to serve everyone. I'm so glad we're connected. And thank you for the 30-Second Success book that you wrote. Fantastic. It was such a privilege to read that when it was in its early development.
Well, thank you so much for your encouragement along the way. I really appreciate it. You've been very helpful in getting that book out to the public. So thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words you've had to say about it as well. So appreciate you for that. So I'm really excited to just kind of dive in today and talk a little bit more about, you mentioned in your bio about attention and working with, that professional side of things, but also with your community. Mm-hmm. So, having that attention pays, right? We can really talk about how attention really is important when it comes to networking and connecting with people. So that's what I'd love to address in our time together today.
Sure, that sounds great.
So, one of the things that I love to do when I first start talking with folks is, do you remember when we first met?
No, but it must go back a long way. Was it at a Chamber of Commerce event in Bucks County?
No, it was actually one of Jamie Broderick's events for Network Now. You and
I love Jamie. She's one of the queens of networking. Yes.
Yeah, it was at the Bucks Club, and you and Tracy Davidson did a presentation. And I just absolutely loved meeting both of you. Just that you shared so much great information that was so helpful for me in the early days of my business. So yeah, we're going back quite a ways, and that's probably even before I launched 30-Second Success. So
definitely was. When we relocated from Sydney City to Doylestown, Pennsylvania. So if anyone's listening or watching this, just so you know, it's like this tiny little beautiful perfect town, but it was such a contrast to Sydney, Australia, where we lived on the harbour, and I have always been a city girl. So it was a big culture shock for me. And the first thing that I did when I moved to Doylestown, I remember my very first Google search was Women's Networks plus Doylestown. And so what I did was I was very deliberate, and I literally knew no one but our realtor when we moved from Sydney. And so Bucks County was just so welcoming. There was a small women's business network. There was the Chamber of Commerce. There were people like Jamie who definitely rose up in my search to find people who really were focused on helping people build their connections. And so that's how I got into Bucks County. I just chose full immersion, and I dug a suit out of my suitcase. Like, I'd only been there, I don't know, like not even a week, and I arrived half an hour early to this tiny little room to be able to like meet some women, and I had no idea where I was. And so it was literally a 4-minute drive from my house, and so I sat in my car like not knowing a single soul, and that was my first introduction to networking in Doylestown.
Awesome. And it's so creative, and a lot of folks don't understand that networking is pretty big here in Bucks County. It didn't used to be. I don't know about you, but 10, 15 years ago when I started looking for places to network, I had a hard time. And with the Women's Business Forum was one of the first places that I started networking and meeting a lot of amazing women that have helped me tremendously in my business. And Jamie's one of those people. I'm going to have to get her on this video one of these days.
Oh, yeah, she'd be a great guest.
I think she'd be great.
I've always believed that, women support other women, and maybe the woman standing in front of you can't help you, but it's the 200 women she knows that really, that's where I found people to be so supportive. And the one question that I asked everyone from the moment I started networking in Bucks County, and then I later established a women's networking event in Philadelphia. We went from having like 20 people at lunch the first time to 120 every month, so I truly believe in networking, and I believe that one question that I asked everyone was, who are the movers and shakers that I need to meet? And so people love to think of themselves as like a mover and a shaker. And so it was interesting to me how the names kept popping up. People would say, oh, you need to meet Jamie, or you need to meet Laura, or you need to meet Gina Rubel, or whatever it was. What was lovely about that experience was that when you ask people, who are the movers and shakers that I should meet, not only do they tell you, my follow-up question was always, could you make that introduction for me? And what I've realized is, and when it comes to connecting and paying attention, if you truly give someone your undivided attention and you say to them, I'm genuinely new here, I want to build my business, or I want to meet more people, or I want to meet some new friends, and you tell people, and then you listen intently to what they reply, and you're so in that moment that you're giving them that undivided attention, they want to help you. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, my goodness, where do I even start? Ask for what you want and then share how you can add value. So for example, what I would say is, who are the movers and shakers? People would tell me, I'd ask for an introduction. And then the next step to that was, Laura, what I would do is, as soon as I would meet like a Gina Rubel, who has a phenomenal public relations company in Bucks County, very famous in the law community. And what I would do is, as soon as I'd met someone, I would then introduce them to the next person I met. And so I was constantly making connections with people, even though I knew like 6 people in Bucks County, the constant connectedness that I think happens, and anyone can do this no matter where you live, but I think it's about looking to see, how can you give first? If you have a valuable connection, if you have met someone, can you then be a resource for someone else? And so I slowly collated a group of people that I could recommend, a great doctor, a great stylist, a great publicist, all of these different kinds of resources. So if someone said, hey, I want to change hairdressers, I'd say, oh my gosh, this girl's amazing. And so that's what I think we need to do, is we need to be the connector. But the only way you can do that is if you listen intently and pay attention, be in the moment, so you can make those connections and conversation for people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people realize, being a master connector, it really is about paying attention to what people need, what they're looking for, and listening, right? And how often are we just... Right, reading
between the lines. What are they not telling you? If you really want to be a master connector, it's not just hearing the obvious requests. It's being able to ask questions like, well, what else do you need? How else can I help you? What else is on your agenda? What other projects are you working on? What other ways can I support you? One of my favorite questions when I'm networking with people or connecting them is, what am I listening for in conversations that means you'd be a good person to connect them with? And so often in business networking events, people tell you kind of their title or what they do, and that's great. A bit boring, but that's great. But what I'm always asking for is, when I'm talking to someone, how do I know I should refer them to you? And then what that person's able to give you is language and phrases and an insight into what makes a great recommendation for them or a great referral for them. And that's the stuff I file away, is what are they telling me, so that if I'm talking to Laura and she says, hey, I need a really great publicist when I launch my next book, I can say, oh my gosh, my friend Gina Rubel might know someone who does that, or it might be part of her product suite as a PR and marketing firm. So I think what it's doing is just being able to listen in intently and be able to, one of the things we talk about in Attention Pays, the book, is that it's intention that makes attention valuable. So if you're being really intentional in your listening, if you're choosing very consciously to act deliberately in that moment, that's how you pay intentional attention.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. So here's another question. And because you have experience with obviously moving from one country to another, and now you've moved from our little hubbub of Doylestown down to Tampa. So now you're kind of making that transition again. How do you stay connected? What do you do that really helps you to stay connected with the folks that you have met over the years or that you've transitioned away from physically?
Yeah, so if anyone knows my body of work is all about attention and productivity. And one of the things I talk about as a keynote speaker when I'm in front of corporate audiences or association clients is that I believe that you need systems of attention. So one thing I talk about is very much systemized thoughtfulness. We talk about that in Attention Pays, and my next book coming out, Systems Thinking, is all about this process. And so what I believe is we need to have systems of attention. Let me give you an example. We have an advocate program. And so an advocate program, anyone listening to this could set it up for themselves. It's pretty much just a fancy spreadsheet, let's be honest. But what I've done is, and anyone can do this, is selected the top 20 advocates that I'd like to stay in touch with. Now, an advocate could be someone inside your industry or outside your practice that you really want to develop a relationship with. And so for me, I have a spreadsheet of those names, and then every month I deliberately connect with them. And so the spreadsheet has their name and all their contact information. And across the top, it just has the months of the year. And so being that we just switched over at the time of recording to April, one of the things that I do is I schedule an appointment with myself to send something to my advocates every single month. And then in that spreadsheet, I outline what it is. It could be a TED Talk I watched. It could be a handwritten love note. It could be a card for their birthday or anniversary. It might be a friend might have released a new book. And so when my friends release new books, I buy 20 copies and I send it out. And sometimes I'll have the author autograph them for me and personalize it. You don't have to spend money on it, but for me, what I'm doing is deliberately staying in contact. It's a system to stay in contact with advocates. So what I do is I have a list of people that I'm regularly in contact with. That list changes every year. For people that I've moved away from, I find social media is the easiest way to do that. Every morning I do what's called a social media drive-by. Chances are we talked about this when we were at the Bucks Club together. And for 15 minutes every morning when I'm drinking my coffee or matcha or green juice, whatever, however healthy I'm feeling that day, I do a 15-minute drive-by. And anyone can do this too, Laura. It's so easy. I literally go through every social media platform. So on Instagram, I will like, comment, and share information. On LinkedIn, I might write a recommendation for someone to surprise them so it pops in their inbox when they wake up. For Twitter, I might retweet something or make a comment on it. On Facebook, is my least favorite platform, but it seems to be where most people are connected. I will generally message them or like private message rather than do it, but sometimes I'll post on their timeline. And then the other thing that I do is I always grab my cell phone. And what I do is for people celebrating birthdays, I'll shoot a short video message, sing happy birthday, then I'll text it off to them. Because the great thing about Facebook, one of the things, is that it tells you whose birthday it is on the day. And without Facebook, I literally wouldn't remember everyone's birthdays. And so, I used to be one of those people who had like a little birthday book. Do you remember those, Laura? Like you have everyone's birthdays in the month. So those are systems that I have. The 15-minute drive-by is a way to manage social media in case anyone gets overwhelmed by it, to proactively stay in contact with people. And that way, too, it gives me the ability to comment on someone's vacation or graduation or marathon, things I wouldn't normally know about, but people are quite active on social media. And so that's an easy way to stay in contact. And so if it wasn't for Facebook, I often wouldn't know when people's birthdays and special occasions were to them. So for me, I do a lot of things behind the scenes. I send a lot of private messages, a lot of text messages. And one thing that I do is I send a love note every day. And so before I go out for my morning walk, I write a love note, pop it in my letterbox so the mailman can come and pick it up. And that way, too, I'm staying connected to people. And so that it looks very random, but it's very much a system that there are certain things that I have to do every day. One of them is write a love note to someone or a thank you note of some kind. And so I think what you can do is you can create these little micro systems in your day if you want to really stay connected.
That's great. I love the whole idea of the advocate list. And it's funny because in my book, in 30 Second Success, I talk about your power partner circle.
Yeah.
Power circles. Very, it sounds like the same thing. It's those people that serve the same community as you do, that you want to stay connected with, and just that you can refer folks back and forth. But it goes deeper than that. It really does. It goes deeper to those personal relationships with people that will help you over the years just grow your business. They understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And at different times, they're able to lift you up and elevate you, especially sometimes when we're just feeling like, I have no clue what I'm doing today. Sometimes we just need somebody to kind of pick us up, and those are the folks that you want to turn to, right?
The me is separate. Advocates are very much people that can advocate for me and my business, and I can recommend them. That's a very different list. I have a list, I have a group of girls called She-Noters, and these are female keynote speakers. We are part of a group, and we have regular monthly Zoom calls. We have a never-ending text chain, and we each speak on something very different. And so frequently we will recommend each other in as the next speaker. So in my profession as a keynote speaker for large corporate and associations, I can do a great big kickoff event for them, but they're not going to have me every year. So I can recommend another She-Noter to come in, and that's been really helpful as well. And one thing that people might consider listening to this is, can you create a group of people that are very like-minded, have similar values to you? Maybe they're even in a similar sort of price point to you, but what you can do is actively recommend people. So one process I've always had as a keynote speaker is I always give my meeting planner 2 names. So before I go on stage, knowing what I know about the client, I might make a recommendation. Say, for example, Judson Lively is a brilliant keynote speaker, a dear friend. And I think, oh gosh, this audience would love him. He's the creator of Evolution of Dance. He dances as part of his keynote. Like, audiences literally stand on their chair and cheer when he takes the stage. So I never want to follow him, but I'm happy to recommend him. And so before I go on stage, I might say to the meeting planner, someone this audience would love is Judson Lively. And then I might even mention Judson in my keynote, which sets it up for the next year. And when I come off stage, I think, well, based on my experience with that amazing audience, I might say to the meeting planner, someone that I think everyone would love in this room is Tammy Evans, a brilliant, funny keynote speaker. She's a genius. And this is why. And then what I say to the meeting planner is, I'll make those introductions for you to make it easier to find your speakers for next year. And so what I'm constantly trying to do is also, this is a system. It's a system before I step on stage, during my speech, and after I get off stage. These are very specific systems I use so that I'm constantly recommending my friends into these particular clients. And the client's so happy because half of their battle of organizing a massive event is finding the talent to inspire and motivate their team. And so what I think we need to consider is that we need these circles of people, as you say, advocates that we're advocating for and they're advocating for us. But whatever it is, mastermind groups, advisory groups, call them power circles, whatever it is, we need to create them, and we have to invest in those relationships.
Yes, absolutely. That investment of time in those relationships really brings so much value. It really does. It's amazing. And even it's interesting to me. It's always interesting to me. It's kind of like a girlfriend thing, is how often, somebody we may think about and haven't talked to for months on end, and then you pick up the phone and you call them, and it's like, oh yeah, how are you doing? And all of a sudden those opportunities show up. There's things that, there will come a time where you're going to think of that specific person, and it'll be the right time to be able to refer them even.
Yeah, there's a really great quote Steve Martin said, be so good they can't ignore you. And I love the thinking behind that, and that is that if you are so consciously connecting people that you stay in contact with them, you stay top of mind from them when an opportunity presents itself, you'll be the first person they think about. And so for me, I think you need systems to stay top of mind. You need systems to stay connected, because it's very easy to get distracted by your own busyness, whatever the distraction of the time is, whether it is homeschooling, pandemics, whether it is a crazy busy schedule, whether it is traveling like a lunatic. There will constantly be reasons, and a lot of people who want and need your attention. We have to choose how we're going to focus on what really matters.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, question, how do you, like, you network with a ton of people. I network with a ton of people. How do you, and talking about systems, how do you discern, the key people that you want to stay in regular contact with as opposed to everyone? Because you can get a little overwhelmed when they're, especially even with social media and connecting with folks on social media. How do you, figure out a good way to stay in touch with people, stay top of mind, be of service, and yet not be overwhelmed by trying to stay in touch with everyone?
I don't think you can stay in contact with everyone. I don't want to be really honest. I just don't. I don't think that I have the capacity to do that. And rather than splinter my attention everywhere, I'd rather give very deep, focused attention to people that are important. And so for me, for example, one of the ways that I manage it, and people may not like this, but thanks to a very dear friend who's a master connector, brilliant speaker on networking called Clay Bear. And Clay has this phenomenal tool where he has this perfect introduction technique. It's genius. But one thing he introduced me to many years ago was the Facebook feed eradicator. It's a plug-in to Facebook, so I don't even see the feed. Like, haven't seen it for years. So the only way that I see what's happening in people's lives on Facebook is if I type their name in. I literally don't see anything.
Oh, wow.
It's brilliant. I love it. And so for me, it's actually about protecting my attention. So I don't stay connected to everyone. I don't know what's going on in everyone's world. My husband often will say, hey, did you know your friend ran a marathon? You should probably congratulate them. So but one thing that I think we have to be very careful of is that we have to choose the platforms and environments that are going to energize us the most. For example, at the time of recording, I probably have about 400 outstanding LinkedIn invitations. I'm not proud of that. That is not something, and same as Facebook, friend requests, I'm like totally behind. And twice a year, I go through them. If, for example, someone I know and adore, friends me on Facebook or on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh my gosh, how could we not be connected? Sure, that's great. But if I have to think really deeply about it, it's just there's twice a year that I go through them. And that's a system. It's not for everyone, and it probably really annoys a lot of people, but it's the only way that I can manage the capacity of those requests. Now, on Instagram, oh my gosh, delighted, because that's my playground. I love Instagram. If anyone wants to connect with me, that's where all my adventures are. So I think you got to choose your platform. I think you got to choose what works for you. The people that I love with my whole heart. I'm all in on those relationships, but I can't do that across every single platform or across every kind of person. And so one thing that I will do is there are certain communities where I might be with them, say, once a year. So if it's a particular community, I know I'm going to see them all in July. In June, I will schedule time to reach out to those people, to proactively research what they're up to, so that when I see them in July, I will be more informed. So I tend to manage my calendar according to those major community events. And so because I think what happens in the world, Laura, I think people assume you read every Facebook page. I think people assume you have looked at their 25 vacation photos, and I don't stay up to date on a daily basis with some of those things, but if I know I'm going to see that person, I will go across their social media platform and have a look. Someone who's genius at this, there's a brilliant person by the name of Erin King, and she wrote a book called Digital Persuasion. She has this phenomenal method called the PUB method. I will let her explain that to you and your viewers. But it stands for be personal, be useful, be brief. And she has a beautiful system of how she comments. She calls it conscious commenting on people's social media platforms. She owns a social media agency. She's a genius speaker, fun chick, and she has done social media for the Oscars, for Nelson Mandela's birthday party. I mean, she's great, like a really, really cool human. And I love that she chooses someone to consciously go and comment on for a week or two so that she can get a better understanding of that person and develop a relationship in that way. And it's a system she's created. And so I think that people need to let go of this need to stay connected to everybody. If you are someone who is saved in my cell phone because I've given you my cell phone number and you are in my contact list, I'm more likely to answer a call from you, right? I have a favorites list. And the great thing is we can use technology to help those systems. If you're not on my favorite list, it automatically goes to voicemail. Like I don't even see it. You can set up systems to manage your attention. You can set up systems for managing how much you connect with people. And so I think you have to protect your attention, and then you can share it more generously with the people that are important to you.
That's beautiful. And I love so much. I could keep talking to you for the rest of the day, but I know you've got a lot to do because you're out there helping everyone really to change how they position themselves in the world. So thank you so much. This is such a blessing. I think we've just kind of covered so much here. I highly recommend your book, Attention Pays, if folks haven't read that. As a matter of fact, I think I've read it twice already. I'm excited about you having a new, tell us a little bit about your new book and when we can expect that. I didn't know you were working on something new.
Yeah, there's 2 books that are coming out in the next 12 months, but systems thinking is one that many clients have been asking for. That's one of the keynotes that I do on how do you truly develop systems, especially salespeople. So this book is very helpful for anyone in sales, which I think everyone's in sales, helping them not just build the relationships, but also the routines they need in their life to drive the revenue that they desire. And revenue can be sales, it can be recommendations, referrals, all kinds of things. And so I'm very excited about the new book. It is a very easy book for people to apply immediately. It's the kind of book that salespeople hopefully will refer to time and time again. And so yeah, that comes out next year. I'm very excited to be very productive at this time of year where I'm writing like a crazy person in order to get that out for our clients.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being with me. I love you. This has been a wonderful time together. I am so excited about the things that you're doing with your business. Can't wait to see you again in Tampa.
Thanks. It was a privilege to serve. Thanks for having me part of it.
So for those of you who haven't connected with Neen James, be sure to follow her on Instagram. You heard it. She loves to play there. So neenjames.com is her website to learn more about Neen and her work as a speaker. She does an amazing job as a speaker, so inspiring. Thank you for being with us. Love you all. Remember, subscribe to 30 Second Success Connect for more videos and share us with your friends.